Hey everyone, it's Zach with American Dog Pros, and today we're going to do a little brand review for remote collars. In this session, we're not going to talk about the why and how of remote collar use. We're just going to compare these three brands that we have here today and talk about the pros and cons of each brand. Okay, so what we're going to do is review the three brands that we have here, these three models, which are the Mini Educator, the Dogtra 1900S, and the Sportdog Sport Hunter 825X. And I feel that these three models represent these three brands very well, although all of these brands have various models. I think that these are three good representations of the three what I would consider the most popular brand in remote collar today. So we're just going to do a little review and comparison of those three models. Okay, we're going to look at a couple of different features of these three brands. First, we have the Sportdog 825X, and you can see here we have a pretty small receiver. We have the on-off button here in between the contact points on the collar itself. And that's pretty much all we have on here. We have that you can turn it on and off with this button, and you can also change the mode that the collar's in. So this one comes with two modes on the collar itself. You have mode 1 and mode 2 on the collar, and that will change the intensity. And then on the remote, you have levels 1 through 7, and you have two training buttons and a page button here. So what I like about this remote is that it doesn't have an on-off switch. It's always on, so you don't have to worry about that. And it's pretty simple as far as 1 through 7. Pretty simple. You know, that's not intimidating for your average pet owner to look at and say we have 1 through 7. That's not intimidating. The other two collars are going to be 0 to 100 plus, and that can be a little bit more intimidating for a pet owner who isn't familiar with training remote collars. But what you're also limited to is because there's less adjustability, you're going to get bigger jumps from level to level, and sometimes that can be too much for a dog. So 1 to 7, less intimidating from a perception place, but it's not always the best for training because you get bigger jumps between levels. But I do like that you have an on-off button on the collar. So even if you don't have the remote around, you can turn off your collar and save the battery. Unlike the Mini Educator that we're going to look at next. So the other thing that I like about the form of this remote is that it's small. It fits in my hand well. And when I'm training, one factor that's really important to me is that I can keep my finger on the button that makes the stimulation and make adjustments to the intensity of the stimulation simultaneously. So you can see my button finger is here, and I can still move up and down this dial very fluently, and I can make those adjustments quick and on the fly. Very important if you're really looking to get the most out of a remote collar trainer. Next, we'll look at the Mini Educator. You have the Mini Educator remote here with two stimulation buttons on the side, your regular stimulation button, and then a boost button. The Sportdog kind of has a boost button as well because you have a low and a medium for each level on the dial. So I like that factor. Having a little bit of a boost is nice. On this one, you can go from your base level of 6. Sorry, we're going to change this real quick. You can go from your base level of, say, at 6 to 11, and you can set that jump from button to button at whatever you'd like to do, so you can make a boost. And making that boost can be helpful in training and make just things convenient and easy when a sudden distraction appears. The remote collar, or the remote itself, it has an on-off button on the back, and so you can press and hold that and you can turn off your remote. And it has a digitally illuminated screen, which the Sportdog does not have. Both of the other two models have an illuminated screen, which I think is very nice if you're out walking your pet at night, especially in the wintertime like right now. It gets dark early, people get home from work after dark, and they go take their dogs out on a walk at night. Having that digitally illuminated remote is very nice. And to go along with that same concept, this collar actually has a flashlight on the collar itself so that your dog is also illuminated in the dark. And neither of the other collars have that. So I think that that's a really nice feature of the Mini Educator, is having that flashlight that illuminates from the collar. And again, having the ability to have my finger on the buttons that make the stimulation and adjust at the same time is very available to me on this model as well. And that is a big deal for me. I can ramp up and down the dial depending on what I'm doing with the dog. It can make a lot of performance adjustments. So I like that a lot. And I actually like it better with this one because it has a glide, and so I can move smoothly through it, whereas opposed to the Sportdog, it's click, click, click. It's a little bit more difficult to make that adjustability. So those are features that I like about the remote. And then the one thing that I don't like here is that to turn the collar on and off, you have to touch these two red dots together, off and on. So if I don't have my remote nearby, I can't turn my collar off. And I actually have had a lot of situations where I've wanted to turn this collar off, and the remote was not nearby, and it was just a little bit of an annoyance that I couldn't turn the collar off without going and finding the remote. Just in your everyday life, if your dog's hanging around the house with the collar on and you're going to take it off, and you want to turn the collar off to save the battery, having that remote is necessary to turn it on and off, and that's a tad bit of an annoyance. Not significant, but a little bit. So those are, the important, the things that I think when I think about the Mini Educator compared to our previous model, the Sportdog. So a lot of things I like, one minor annoyance that I don't like. One thing I do think is that in my experience, the Mini Educator does not get as good of connection through thick fur as the Sportdog model. All of these companies have various contact points that you can remove and replace to try to get better contact. And so that's one thing, is I think that contact through thick fur is lacking in this particular model. But all in all, I like this one a lot for its adjustability. Having this 0 to 100, very, very minute adjustments are available. You have the boost button that you can change and set to whatever amount of boost that you want. You can make adjustments very, very fluidly. You have the illuminated backlight dial, and you have the light on the collar. All very nice features. And then last, we have the Dogtret 1900S. And one thing you notice right away with this is that both of these components are much larger than the other two models, something that I don't like. I like it to be discreet. I like them to be small, light, for a variety of reasons. I like that those ones are smaller, these ones are bigger. I know that Dogtra makes, that Dogtra IQ, I believe, is smaller in both regards than this model, but this is a common model that a lot of pet owners have brought to me. So, and I see a lot of competitive dog trainers using this model a lot. I don't like the size and the heaviness to these models. Now, looking at the remote here, you have, just like on the Mini Educator, the backlit illuminated dial with a large adjustment. You go actually to 127 on this, so you have even more adjustment than the Mini Educator, which I would guess probably means this is a little bit stronger of a collar. I've definitely seen dogs max out on the Mini Educator, and sometimes this a little bit stronger dog can need a little bit stronger collar. This could be an effective thing for certain dogs. And then you have a nick and a continuous here on this one. So nick and continuous for the stimulation. No boost as far as I know on this this particular model. With this model, I find it very difficult to make my adjustments while keeping my finger on the stimulation button. I find that very difficult. I haven't been able to find fluidity with making adjustments and keeping my finger on the button, and so making kind of a ramping feature or moving up and down in my levels as I'm training. I haven't found that fluidity, and so I'm not a fan of this style of remote. The way that this fits in my hand, I haven't enjoyed it. Now I do like that both turn on and off on the component itself. So you have the on-off here on the receiver, and you have the on-off here on the remote as well. So that's a nice feature. This one does not have the flashlight that the Mini Educator does. So that's another thing that I don't like about it. So as far as all that goes, I'm going to say that I like the Dogtra 1900 the least. My second choice would be a Sportdog model similar to this. They have a few models that are very similar, but one of these Sportdog models I would use secondly. And my number one overall choice is the Mini Educator for the flashlight, the adjustability, the glide on the remote makes it very easy to move up and down the levels. You have the boost that you can set to whatever level you want. You do have a vibrate and tone feature. They work pretty consistently from my experience. And the two minor downfalls, I think, is that the connection is not always as good with the Mini Educator. I think the Sportdog and even the Dogtra maybe make a little bit better connection. And then the fact that you can't turn this off without the remote, I don't like that. That's a minor annoyance. But overall, I would choose the Mini Educator over the other two brands. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to take each one of these models, we're going to place them in the same location on my hand, and we're going to see what level I start to feel with each collar just to see the differences in adjustability. So first is going to be the Sportdog collar, and you'll see here when I turn it off and then I turn it back on, it's going to beep one time, indicating that it's in its low mode. This has two modes on the collar itself, so low and medium. And we'll place that there in the meat of my hand. These are muscle stimulators. That's what they do. So you want to place it in the meaty part of your hand to test this. And then we will go down to the lowest level. You'll see here that it didn't do it on the vibrate. I can feel it vibrating, but the light doesn't come on. And then if I go to level 1, we have Nick and we have continuous. Meaning if I hold the button here, it will stay on. If I press it here, I'm still holding it, but you see it went away. It's just a momentary. Not a big fan of Nick and continuous type collars. I'd rather just press and hold or tap if I need one or the other. But anyways, I feel nothing here at 1. At 2, I actually do feel that at 2. I can feel that for sure at level 2. And then at 3, you can see it makes my muscle move a little bit. You can probably see that. And it's kind of a pulsing, doot feeling of stimulation on my palm. Okay, so feeling it at the second level, feeling it quite a bit stronger at level 3. So pretty quick into the progression, I'm feeling it. And then if I take the Mini Educator here and we'll put it right in the same exact marks on my hand, we'll turn this down to 0. You can see here when I press the vibrate, this is just vibrate. They both illuminate, which is nice. This is how I test to see if the collar's working. And then I'm going to move up much more quickly here because I know I don't feel the first 10 levels. I've tested this many times before. But you'll see here if I'm on 3, and I press the buttons here. Every button makes both pieces illuminate, which I like. But 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I feel nothing. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15, I'm feeling just the slightest indication of stimulation throughout my muscle. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20, I'm starting to feel something comparable to what I was feeling at level 2 on the previous model. So this is a mild stimulation that I definitely can feel at level 20. Now, the difference in feeling on this mini educator is substantial, because with the other one I described it as do as a feeling. With this one, it's much more rapid, the pulsing, very, very quickly with the pulsing, which makes it a little bit lighter, a little bit less grabby, and more comfortable of a stimulation, which is something that I like about the mini educator. And then if we move to the Dogtra, I'm going to put them on the exact same marks. Interesting to note that all three seem to have the same distancing between the contact points. We'll go down here, and then we'll do page first. This is the vibrate. Pretty substantial vibrate on this one, but you can see both pieces illuminate. And then I'll start to work my way up, and like I said, I have a much harder time adjusting and hitting the button with this one, but it's going to be similar to the mini educator, where I'm already up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I don't feel anything. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 even, I don't feel anything at all. 17, 18, 19, 21, 21, 22, I start to feel something comparable to what I was feeling before. At 23, we have the same thing here, and you can see my muscle moving as I do that. And so what I'll say about this feeling is it's more rapid of a pulsing, like the mini educator, but you can see it grabbing my muscle much more strongly. Where I think it feels to me like it's a little bit more of a grabby stimulation, but I did get to a higher level before I even started to feel it at all. So a little bit maybe more adjustability on the lower levels with the Dogtra 1900S. And if any of you are familiar with using muscle stimulators or TENS units for physical therapy or muscle recovery from workouts, you'll know that they come in a lot of different types of stimulations. I have one, it's a Compact Sport Elite. You can attach it anywhere around your body for muscle relief, muscle pain relief. And it has a dozen or so different settings, and they all feel distinctly different in the way that they stimulate your muscles. All of these companies use the same technology, that TENS type muscle stimulation, but they don't all feel the same. They feel a little bit differently. I would say that the mini educator has the smoothest and most comfortable stimulation. And what we're looking to create, at least from my training perspective, a lot of times with the remote collars, we're actually teaching movement. We're not generally, I mean, I do, but a lot of people think of the remote collar as a punishment tool. The dog does something bad, and so we punish them with a strong shock from the remote collar. But that's actually not what I most commonly use remote collars for. I do sometimes use it as an aversive to stop behaviors, but I actually use it more as a way of creating movement to a place or to me or into a position, creating different types of movement. And that's what we call pressure training, release of pressure to create movement. It's similar to how we train horses to make different movements as well. And so what I don't want is a strong grabby type stimulation. I want something smooth that the animal can feel and move with. And I think that, in my opinion, the mini educator does that best. That's just my opinion and my experience from using these different tools. Just my opinion on all of this stuff, but it's interesting to see and feel the adjustability and the stimulation of the different remote collars. So now, one thing I kind of want to point out, because this is a controversial topic, is that I didn't feel this until we got to level 15, level 20 really. That means that the levels that we were starting off on were so low, I couldn't perceive them on my own skin, on a sensitive part of my skin. Hands are sensitive. That's very, very low. And a lot of the dogs that I'm training, I'm using 8, 9, 10, single digit levels, 12, low numbers on the remote collar. These are levels that I can't perceive on my own skin, but yet make a significant impact in our ability to train our dogs at a distance around distractions and keep them safe from things that are potentially much more harmful to them. So anyone out there trying to make the claim that using a remote collar in any capacity is animal abuse or harmful or destructive to the animal's psyche, I would consider this completely erroneous and an outlandish type claim. The remote collars use very, very low levels of stimulation, can make substantial gain for our pets and our ability to interrupt problem behaviors and create behaviors around significant distraction. So just my opinion on all that stuff, and I thank you guys for watching the videos, and I challenge you to go out and explore these things on your own and come up with your own opinions. Thanks for watching, and look out for the next one.